Good evening. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. For those of you wondering why we moved the meeting, it was so we would have a quorum, which we barely have, but we do have, and we weren't going to have one next week, so we decided to move the meeting. First thing I'm going to ask for is agenda changes.
Staff have none to present tonight, Mayor.
Next, I'll open up for public forum. Seeing nobody in the audience besides city employees, I'll go ahead and close that public forum and ask for the approval of the consent agenda.
Well, if there's no questions, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda stands as approved. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move into new business. And the first item is the 2023 employee cost of living adjustment, and I'm sure Ethan will pretense that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have in the packet the copy of the November Midwest CPI update. This is what we typically have used in the last meeting of December to inform the council's decision on any cost of living adjustment. The council has done this since 1999 as far as consider it. I will note, there's been 4 times in the history that COLA has not been given due to the CPI being at 1% or below. So this obviously is not a guarantee. It is discretionary amongst you all. The year to year for the Midwest indicates a 6.8%. And then nationally, the CPI was at 7.1% as of the end of November. If you dive in a little deeper, you can see things like fuel and food are trending above that, and other items in that normal basket of consumer goods are or below. So that's where that average comes from. We're recommending 7% based on that, and just historically what the council has done as far as using that to inform. I will note we did anticipate, because of the continued high inflation we saw throughout the year and the economic trends available during budget time, we did anticipate that a COLA of this magnitude would most likely still be in the cards because of continued inflation. So it was built into the budget as presented and approved by you all. So unlike a year ago when a higher COLA adjustment was given and we didn't necessarily have that built in the budget, we did anticipate that this year. So obviously I believe this is something that keeps our wages relevant to market, helps ensure the purchase power is not diminished for our employees. It's especially relevant to those employees that are entry level or on the lower end of our pay scale. More so than, say, a department head level position. Again, historically, the council has done it across the board. That doesn't mean that can't be modified if the council should wish. Other things I guess I will note, as I do know or am cognizant that we had a larger COLA increase last year due to the Midwest CPI, is one thing we did not do that a lot of area cities did. We did not dedicate any of our ARPA dollars to bonus pay or hazard pay through the pandemic. So that's one difference. As far as what peer public agencies are doing, specifically around South Central Kansas, we've seen approved or anticipated anywhere from 2% to 8.7%. That 8.7 is from a city that basically does what Social Security does. But again, we're seeing ranges across the board, and all that's driven by a city's budgetary constraints or their own considerations. So the other things I'll note is this is when employees were surveyed. This does obviously rank in the top 3 benefits that the city offers or considers for employees. It was number 3, the first one being annual merit increases, and the second being our health insurance. COLA was number 3. So it's the only other factors, and I know the mayor's been subject to those meetings at council of governments of that, is just the public sector is facing increasing just due to while inflation is high and economic conditions don't necessarily seem to reflect it. The labor market's still incredibly tight and incredibly competitive. Historically, public sector benefits have been that differentiate between us and the private sector. The private sector has largely caught up, or offers competitive benefits. So, recent research, both from the CED-BR at Wichita State, Pew Research, indicates that wages are the driving factor right now. Again, this increase would not put the city, as the highest paying public sector employer in Harvey County or in South Central Kansas. It would keep us relevant. And so that's why we recommended, in discussion with the management team, the 7%. But I will turn it over for your all's discussion on that, or we'll be glad to answer any questions.
What do you guys think?
So am I correct, there's no bonus given out to the employees,
As far as like
yearly bonus?
a yearly bonus, we have longevity pay for any employee that's been here at least 5 years. And then we do give, at Christmas, $100 to every employee in chamber bucks to use at local businesses. But those would be the two most, I guess, equivalent to bonus pay
I think that's,
employee is eligible for.
I think 7% is pretty fair.
I think the structure is in place already for merit raises. I think I'm not a fan of the COLA at all. I think merit's where it's at. I think there's, a couple police officers that I know, a couple maintenance workers, Julie, for sure. I'm sure they deserve everything they can get. Totally with that. But I think it needs to be merit-based. And I think the 7% is really overshooting it this year. If I would recommend, if you wanted 3% for all employees except for managers, I'd do that, or maybe 2% across the board, but 7% is just, we have to be responsible as a council too. And I just don't think 7% is responsible.
Right now, with where we're at and the cost of living and where it's at, and with whatever dollars any of us have, we have the shrinkflation, we have we have gas inflation, everything is going up. We've had traditionally, we've budgeted for COLA raises, and I have no issue with the COLA raises. Yes, the employees get merit raises, and I don't think those are out of line. And I think Ethan does a good job of making sure that those that do get the merit raises are getting what they deserve. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I can say if the employees were getting like a $1,500 bonus a year, at like a 3.5% increase would be, but with $100, that.
They're getting merit raises though.
Yeah.
What's the top merit raise?
So basically at the bottom, everyone would be getting 10% at the very bottom. Mm-hmm. The city can't afford to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about every year?
Every year.
Yeah.
What was our COLA last year?
COLA last year was 7%.
Was it 7%?
Yeah, and that was a historically high number. Years past, they've been averaging between 2 and 4.
No. It's because we had no inflation.
Exactly.
Yeah, since 1998, the average across, that 22 years would be 2.23%. So yeah, last year and this year, absolutely, we're budgetarily, just out of the norm of inflation of what we've seen. And again, that Midwest CPI number is what, has been used to inform the position. As far as the budget, I agree. If we continue to see 10% year-to-year inflation, that's not sustainable, I think, for any business. Definitely not for the public sector. We did anticipate or build into that budget, obviously, this across the board. We anticipated salaries about 10% to allow for adequate merit and COLA, as far as the answer to the question on the upper level of merit raises that can be seen, our compensation plan basically evaluates an employee's current wage versus the midpoint for similar positions in the public sector across the state. If they are, let's say, 10% below that and would get like an outstanding review, they could be 6%, according to that scale. So merit can go anywhere from 6, although we have very few employees that are that far below the midpoint to qualify, and they can be as small as 0.5% if an employee is far up and above where their midpoint is for a similar position. So,
Even though they get an excellent review.
yeah, even though they get an excellent, the pay plan, instead of having a hardcore step where if you just get your next step, you're guaranteed, it does have a merit, but it also slows you down the farther you get from that midpoint unless you're moving into a position that would have a higher average salary.
Well, we could look at changing that. I mean, merit's where it's at. Like, if you're just giving, all you do is create entitled people and you kill motivation.
So with a base rate of someone that was going to be employed today for the city, what would that be at for a city worker? Like, what would you start their salary at per hour?
Like for, say, maintenance?
Yeah, let's say maintenance.
So Public Works would probably be 16 with absolutely no skill set, coming into it.
So we're talking about $1.60 raise per hour.
Well, less than that, because we're
Yeah.
only looking at 7% tonight.
7%.
Yeah, but if it,
In my opinion, I think everybody's made excellent points here tonight. I do sit in on some other meetings where I see what's going on in the county. We're going to have to figure out how to keep our competitive edge, to keep drawing employees to our employment pool. I think that perhaps down the road, we need to schedule this for a work session and look at how we structure this. But for tonight's purposes, we did budget 10%.
Yeah.
So I hate doing 7% 2 years in a row. It doesn't feel fiscally responsible, but with everything else going on in the world, the last thing I want to do is hurt our employees.
Or lose any of them.
Or lose any of them, true. So that's kind of where I'm at on it, but I don't have to vote, so this is a council decision.
so we voting on 7% or 10%?
Depends on who makes the motion and what they make it for.
I don't think I'm at 7%. I'm sorry.
Well,
So,
let me make this motion. So I make a motion to table the cost of living discussion until we can have the full council here.
Will this go into effect immediately?
Typically, we would put it for whatever the first true payroll in the upcoming year is. So in this case, it would be the payroll starting December 31st. The city has the option with it being tabled. We can add retroactive for the 1 pay period or 2 pay periods, To inform the discussion, we can get with the management team and bring back options, as
as far as employees, I'd like to invest in them, training, whatever, to make them more valuable, to make them feel more valuable, to make them more valuable to us, to, keep us from farming so much stuff out. I see that more as, being a positive thing for the employees. I just, you gotta have a carrot on a stick to be motivated. If they think they're gonna get 7%, what are you gonna ask for, 15 days, holidays next year and 8%? We can't, we gotta be responsible for the people we represent, so.
Well, I have a motion to table this issue. Would somebody like to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to table the employee cost of living adjustment until we have a full council. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign, we'll table that. We'll set that for next meeting. Next, updates to city personnel policies, resolution number 2022-14. I assume this is just a housekeeping year-end deal, Ethan?
Yeah, I'm sure those of you that reviewed saw, I mean, there's several changes going in there. I kind of did just a bullet list in the agenda packet. Specifically as far as things that were changed in section E1, we basically added that employees can't just opt to take unpaid leave and not charge their leave banks if they're deviating from their normal, what would be their normal work week. We previously didn't have any language like that, so, this obviously keeps us from having unfunded liability in terms of leave balances that aren't being taken. Helps make sure that the employees also are staying cognizant or staying at like those required things we have for health insurance benefits or life insurance. In section E3, that updated the personnel policies to reflect the discussion from the previous meeting on updates to the holiday schedule. So that's set, it clarified how hours work on the in-service day. Also adds language that's very common in the private sector that basically employees to be paid for holidays must either be working the day before and after a holiday to receive that holiday pay, or they have to be on approved paid leave. And that also we had some old language and policies in there that did not reflect our police department or fire EMS that work shift and how they receive holiday pay. So this standardized that pay differential for them when they work on those holidays. Section E4 grants vacation leave to new hires. As we have tried and to fill positions, that is one area the city has been, and I know we talked about it at a previous work session, that the city basically made people wait an entire year before any vacation leave was given. This would basically award 40 hours at the point of hire, still has the caveat that in your probationary period, unless you have prior approval from myself or the department head, that you can't take vacation in that probationary period. But that was been suggested both by people that did accept job offers with us as something the city should change to be more reflective. Also, again, adjust accumulation to the police and fire EMS hours to give them the equivalent of what hours they would work in a week, as opposed to everything being based on 40 hours, which it was previously. Also increases the carryover limit to the equivalent of 1 week for all departments, prohibits taking and then mandates that 7 consecutive days off in a year be taken by all employees to, again, help ensure that work-life balance and that they're actually taking that vacation leave that we're giving. And then adjusted payouts to reflect and reward longevity. Basically, the previous was if 10 years, it's pretty rare, and the workforce trends are not seeing. If you're keeping employees for 3+ years, those are considered long-term employees in most organizations now. So it drops that third tier, if you will, of longevity to a 5-year plus, and then at 10 years, that final max vacation accrual in a year. Section E5 standardized the notification for sick leave prior to the shift. Simplified when medical certification would be required, and then put some regulations on the donation of leave, which was pretty not defined in our old policies. Section E7 standardized the leave amount to 24 hours, regardless of employee type for bereavement. The previous language for bereavement spoke in terms of days. Obviously, with our shift departments, them taking 3 working days off would be a substantial amount of the month, potentially. So this basically makes it equitable for all employees that you're entitled up to 24 hours of leave for bereavement. E10 removed the requirement that employees turn over jury duty pay in order to receive their paid time off for civil leave, and then clarified that any time needed off for personal legal liability was not compensable without the employee taking some sort of approved paid leave. Section L4 updated our tobacco use policy to include vaping pens, e-cigarettes, and then added language about tobacco use at work sites and in any equipment, where we just kind of had a generic no smoking policy previously. M1 through 3, updated residency requirement to 60 minutes for general employees or department head, residency within 30 minutes for certain department heads or public safety positions, and then city limits residency requirement for the city manager position. And then section N8, updated cell phone use policy, again, just reflecting the current conditions we find ourselves in, to also include wearables like smartwatches or other personal tech devices, as opposed to just being specific to cell phones or mobile telephones. So those are the specific changes that are in that resolution to update.
If there's no discussion, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-14, a resolution that amends the personnel policies and guidelines for the city of Halstead, Kansas.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2022-14. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That resolution carries, and those updates will be made to the city personnel policies. Next item is updated city boundaries, resolution 2022-15, and I'll let Ethan pretense this one too.
This is one of the main reasons we wanted to get this last meeting in for December. Under state statute, we need to approve a boundary resolution anytime we annex property, with the recent annexation of Williams Park and then the 2 annexations last year. We have the new legal description. Julie has the hard copy. We just got it from Brad. So if you all want to read, the resolution itself is pretty simple and just says we're updating our boundaries, and then has Exhibit A, which is the legal description of the city limits of the city of Halstead. So again, this is a standard resolution that the city should be doing anytime it adds or excludes property from the city limits. We did engage Garber Surveying to give us those updated legal descriptions. So it adds the Wedgewood Golf Course and also is the wastewater treatment plant. Then the rest is the contiguous city limits as they've historically been.
The wastewater treatment plant wasn't covered before.
It was in the old one. Just if you're looking at it, you'll see there's a big, long description, which would be what most of us would consider the city proper. And then you have an and also section, which is the wastewater treatment plant, because it's technically its own little island. The road between it's not considered in the city limits. And then the Wedgewood Golf Course is the other island that we have. So. And then the contiguous does update for Williams Park, the line south of 10th Street, that was added in 2021. And it's fun reading if you've never read legal descriptions.
Well, I'd motion to approve resolution number 2022-15, declaring the boundaries of the city of Halstead, Kansas.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2022-15. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That one's updated. So we achieved our goal for tonight.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is the 2022 financial audit engagement. Is this the audit with Knudsen and Monroe?
Yep. This is our financial audit. Basically, we've worked with Knudsen for many years, have a good working relationship. We've had enough staff changing that there's not concerns as far as familiarity or over-familiarity developing between, staff and the auditors, because they changed the audit team as well. I believe Amy Elliott will still be the lead with Knudsen that will be overseeing our audit, and Julie will really be in the hot seat this year with her new role. And then the other thing to note is the price went up to $13,500, which is about a 6% increase from the cost we saw last year, which this, again, has been pretty standard as far as increases we're seeing from contractors for work.
Did we have that in the budget?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2022 audit engagement with Knudsen Monroe for an amount not to exceed $13,500, and to authorize staff and the mayor to sign necessary documentation.
Second.
Have the motion and the second to approve the 2022 financial audit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. And that is taken care of. Next item on our agenda is we need to set a 2023 public hearing for tax abatement review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every January at the second meeting, we review the active tax abatements in the city of Halstead. We still have one with Lake Company and one with Martin Machine. So those would be the two that will be reviewed. To coincide with our last meeting in January, we just need to schedule that public hearing for January 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. And then we will get that public notice out.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing for review of active tax abatements in the city of Halstead on January 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to set the public hearing for the tax abatement reviews for January 23rd, 2023. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. We have no executive session scheduled tonight, so we'll move on to reports. And the first item will be governing body comments. And tonight I'll start with you, Denise.
We are well in the midst of the holiday season. I'd like to thank the committee that selected the decorations for in town. I think they look fabulous. I love the bridge. I love the coming into town from the north side of town. So y'all did a really good job, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much. And as we head into the weekend, let's hope that the weather stays well so that we can get together and gather with our loved ones. And I just want to wish everybody within the city limits of Halstead Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, or Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whichever. But happy holidays to everybody.
I don't have anything.
I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and take your time, and spend it with your family.
For me, I do think the holiday decorations look great. Grant, if you're listening, I wish the regular lights were turned on the bridge as well. That was a request that came up earlier this evening. We are on the precipice of a cold front moving in. We're gonna have some historically low temperatures, it sounds like. Be mindful of gas usage. We're not seeing any emergency situations yet, and hopefully we don't. We are seeing prices across the board a little higher than what we've been used to, but nothing ridiculous yet. So just be mindful of that. And other than that, I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll move on to Ethan for his manager's report.
Thank you. Here's a great segue into the first. As we've posted on social media, et cetera, the city did receive an operational flow order notice from Black Hills, which basically is asking cities to conserve and be within their gas nominations for usage in the coming days because they anticipate increased demand due to the cold snap that's coming. Again, everything we're seeing does not indicate that this should be a repeat of what was seen in February of 2021. But people conserving obviously helps lessen demand and ensure adequate supply for everyone, which hopefully helps those prices. So if people can conserve, there's some tips on that at the website. We are actively had a webinar with KMGA today. The city also obviously has a lot more gas that was entered into on pre-existing contracts to help lessen our exposure to those daily markets, which will most likely see some increases there. So it is actively being monitored. City staff will monitor the weather and engage our road action response plan as needed. Thankfully, it looks like some of the precipitation has been lessened, but it's still going to be cold. The other thing is, unless there's heavy resistance from the city council, we would like to move the city holidays in recognition of this. Originally, we were scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, to schedule for Friday and Monday instead for the offices to be closed. So we would actually open on Tuesday instead of being closed. That one hopefully allows us to keep our staff out of that inclement cold weather as much as possible unless there's emergency or a reason they need to respond. And it helps us decrease our gas usage on those cold days because we can winterize the building, so to speak, for the day we're closed. So we will be making that change again unless there's any objection from you all.
It's a good idea.
And other than that, we continue working earnestly to prepare for year end and the upcoming transition of our fiscal years. And that is all I have to report as far as the city manager side of things. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. One more thing we did just find out was the city, we were the sponsoring applicant and primary applicant for the seed grant from Department of Commerce. We did that in conjunction, if you'll remember, with the cities of North Newton, the library, and the Kansas Learning Center for Health. We were awarded $49,125 for 3 projects, 2 of them in Halstead, 1 in North Newton. So just want to thank Kyle Fiedler in North Newton for his help, and then Carrie at the Learning Center in that grant application, where we were very excited to get that notice finally from the state. So
What were the projects in Halstead again?
the library is going to get new carpeting, and then it's going to help with the physical activity area on the Kansas Learning Center that the city had previously donated some matching funds for, that the K's and Parks and Rec and everyone and the Learning Center are
When
working
are they
on.
gonna start on that, do we know?
I know they were waiting on this grant to see, because that will help inform how many pieces of that equipment they can buy.
Perfect, so probably
So-
springtime.
Yeah, and I say the seed grant, we have to have everything done within, I believe, 9 months of us getting that money. So we anticipate we should get that probably in January.
I think it's exciting that out of the 3 grants, 2 of them are happening here in Halstead. I feel like a winner.
Yes. 66%, it's good.
So we'll move into the financial report and see if we're gonna continue winning.
Yeah, financial, you have the 2 reports there. The first thing I want to note is obviously we're soft closed. So that just means that we're still waiting on reconciliation with the city treasurer. But I do want to point out that city clerk Julie Waite took the lead on closing this month end, and she did an excellent job with very little issues, and just happy she's continuing to learn that month end process, and if there's any mistakes, they're her fault.
Whoa, throw her
no.
under the bus, don't you dare.
No, I'm very happy. It's a very complicated process. Julie's really taken to it well. So just really want to acknowledge her efforts on this, and she really took the bull by the horns and just asked me a few questions, so I'm very pleased. Not much change in terms of our overall cash position since our last monthly update to you in October. Overall, our cash position has increased across all budgeted funds by about $125,000, with water, gas, and the general fund being the 3 funds with the greatest year-to-year improvements. Special Street and Highway Fund has the largest decrease, which is just due to the city expending more on street sealing and patching, and then the timing and the amount of gas tax transfers that we receive from the state, which is the only source of revenue in that fund. Other cash variances in the other funds are minimal or represent differences due to timing of expenditures versus revenues. Expenditures across all the budgeted funds are running at around 80% combined, which maintains favorability to our expected budgetary expenses by about 9%. Revenues have met or are just shy of expectations for the end of November in all funds, with the exception of the library fund. And that's pretty much due to the adjustment we do in that fund for the reimbursement they give us for the payroll expenses since we process their payroll. Within the general fund, all the sub-fund or departments are within their expected budgets, with the exception of 2 of them. And we anticipated that those departments were going to be over budget by the end of the year, just due to some of the specifics related to their operations and staffing this year. The respective department heads are aware of those budget constraints, and they are working to control their costs for the remaining month to reduce any unfavorability as much as they can. General fund revenues are performing well. We're especially happy with sales tax collection and then our interest income being considerably favorable to what we had budgeted. all budgeted funds do remain within their budget authority as of the end of November, and the expense to revenue ratios for our city's enterprise funds are at or above acceptable levels for the continued health of those. In terms of operation, capital transfers were able to be completed, and we anticipate, based on the trends, that all our remaining capital transfers for the year should be able to be made, including the additional transfer to the gas reserve per the amended budget. The capital improvement fund and the city equipment fund both saw increased balances due to the incoming transfers, but we do anticipate some reduction by year's end because we do have things like the down payment on the new marquee and then some IT infrastructure as far as PC replacements and stuff that will come out of the equipment funds. So with only 1 month left in our fiscal year, we're on very stable footing. That should give us an excellent foundation to start that 2023 fiscal year. Again, keeping it short because you guys are probably going to get tired of hearing as we start talking more about year-end finances, so.
Well, I've got two questions for you. The first one is, what's our balance looking like on that gas note with the state?
We are just shy of 1.7 million, I believe, or around the 1.7 million mark.
Are we
Up to
making
2 million.
annual payments on that or monthly?
We make monthly payments, and so far we've been paying in the minimum due. We can accelerate that at any time. We are anticipating that either next week or in the first couple weeks of January is when they reset that rate, and so
That will have a big play on what we decide to do. If they leave that rate where it's at, well, we'll just keep paying by the month.
Yep, but we did anticipate if we get early notification, when we amended the gas budget, we included accelerated payoff in this year, and we did build potential accelerated payoff in next year's budget as well.
Okay, question two. Do you have a start date on when they're gonna start working on the new marquee?
Gee,
We sent the check and they've cashed the check. He's supposed to be coming out to bring his crew that's actually going to be building the sign, and they're going to go tour Riverside Park and see the bridge in person, and then come in and talk to us. And there was one minor change we talked about making with them. And other than that, once they come out, he said it was just a matter of how long it would take once they received our check to order the parts to get started.
Okay,
I'm excited to see it when
I am
it's done.
so excited.
I think everybody is. Well, that concludes my questions. Council, do you have any questions of Ethan's reports?
So before we pour all that cement, do we need to, I was just thinking maybe we should, is it necessary to maybe run some conduit in case we need Ethernet or electricity sometime? I don't know.
You mean on that sidewalk project?
Yeah, 'cause I was just thinking of that because I saw
Anything you can think of, Pat?
just a thought.
How do we power those Christmas lights? Is everything going overhead now? Okay.
Okay, so that's not an issue then.
Well, I mean, it's not an issue, but at some point, it would be nice to get that power underground instead of overhead down Main Street, but.
Just thought I'd mention it while we have it torn up.
yeah,
I don't know.
no,
It's not really my specialty though, so.
it's not bad though, maybe to reach out to Evergy and see. I mean, obviously, I know in the strategic planning process that downtown streetscaping, if you will, and maybe transitioning to, new / older looking downtown lighting was brought up, and obviously that would necessitate us running underground, and I know Evergy's not gonna do that for free, so if we already had the
Yeah.
conduit and stuff in there where we don't have to tear up sidewalk.
Sterling has all their trees and they have the old school and they have all their trees lit up and it looks really nice.
They have a very nice Christmas display, and probably if Halstead owned their own power plant, we would too. You're welcome, Craig. Craig Crossett is the city manager for Sterling and a friend of mine, so I visit that city frequently, and it is a very pretty city this time of year. Council, anything else? Well, that is gonna conclude our agenda this evening, so I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We stand adjourned. Thank you, council.